Alright, so these are incredibly effective ways that I've found over the years to memorise and learn lines. Obviously, it's an obligation as an actor. At some point down the line, you're going to need to memorise a piece of text or dialogue, and it's something that strikes fear into many, many people. But it doesn't have to be that way. Training yourself to be able to learn lines is just like training yourself to do anything. It's a muscle. The more you do it, the more regularity you have with it, the stronger it becomes, and it's just something that you need to work at and find what works for you. So these are 5 ways that I've found incredibly effective over the years I've become an actor. So we all know that feeling that as actors, sometimes we have a very short space, short period of time to try and learn the lines. We have to juggle many, many things in our lives, as well as try to learn these lines. And we've all been burning that midnight candle, staying up till all hours, trying to learn that piece of script that we have to get off the book. So let's shorten this process. Let's make it the most effective process possible. Let's go. First off, before I give any of these 5 tips, I just want to say that it's massively important, probably more important than anything, to give yourself context of what you're saying. There's absolutely no point in trying to learn any lines if you don't understand what they mean, what they're about, because you're going to make the process 100 times harder for yourself. It goes without saying, right? If we sit down to try and memorise something with no context whatsoever, say a phone book or something, and it's just names and phone numbers, it's going to be incredibly, incredibly hard to learn it. So if you are able to apply context and meaning and understand what is going on behind the dialogue, attach some kind of connection, some kind of feeling towards it, or visualise what the character is wanting to say, then automatically you already loosen the workload for yourself, because you're putting yourself into their shoes, you're seeing the world through their eyes, and automatically the words come a lot easier for you to understand. I know many actors who start with the lines first and then think, I'll find out the meaning of them later on. It just makes the task so much harder. So find out the context, spend a bit of time getting attached to that. Any words you don't understand, obviously you need to look those up and understand them. Tip number 1. For me, it's been incredibly effective to move whilst learning lines. I found when I've been stationary, when I've been sitting still, it applies added unnecessary pressure to the fact I'm sitting here learning lines. And actually movement has been incredibly helpful. Movement can take the form of many different things. It can be wandering around your room or your house, or even going for a walk outside. Just be careful if you're learning lines in public, because people do stare at you when you're saying them out loud. But movement, it's been scientifically proven that it actually increases the blood flow to the brain, which increases activity in the hippocampus, which is the part of the brain that helps us learn lines. So actually you're really doing yourself a benefit. One of my favourite things to do is actually to record my lines onto a phone or whatever recording equipment you might have, and put some headphones in and go for a run and think of nothing else other than the lines whilst I'm going on a run and a jog. And I come back and already a lot of those lines have just seeped into my subconsciousness. It's a funny thing. Sometimes it's incredibly useful just to sit down with a piece of paper and write the lines out over and over again, like some rote memorization. This is a way, like if I feel I'm paraphrasing certain lines, or if I feel I'm getting the general sense of it, like I was saying earlier on, get context for what you're saying. If I'm getting the general sense of the lines, but I'm missing out a word or two here or there, I find writing them down an incredibly effective exercise to show how accurate I'm being. Quite often, if we just say it out loud, we get ourselves into a false pretense of, oh yeah, I'm getting this and I know these lines, but there might be 1 or 2 lines here or there that you're just getting off a little bit, and writing them down really helps cement whether you know them properly or not. This one is going to maybe sound a little bit counterintuitive. You're going to think, what? Adam, are you really recommending this to me? And yes, I am. A hugely effective way of learning your lines is actually through sleep. A lot of what we do through sleep, and it is a hugely underrated thing in our lives, I think, in this day and age, sleep, is a lot of what happens is our body refreshes itself, it processes our memories from the day, and it allows us to make new learnings. So actually, when you're feeling frustrated, when you're feeling bothered, when you're feeling crammed that you can't learn any more lines, having that 10-minute nap might be very beneficial in cementing some of those lines from short-term memory to long-term memory. Some of what I do when I've got a couple of days to learn some lines, I'll make sure that I do it the first thing in the morning when I get up and I'm nice and fresh and refreshed. And I also make sure that I do it last thing at night, just look over them before I go to bed. And what I feel this allows me to do is it just keeps it fresh in my memory from when I first awake and when I go to sleep. And for some reason, when it's in your mind before you go to sleep, then it just is as if your brain is working through the problems of learning those lines, of processing them, and it just helps prompt that process to start. So one thing that's very important is quite often a pushback on people when they are learning lines is, I don't want to get into a patterned way of saying it. I don't just want to turn into a robot who says these lines. I want to keep it fresh, open, in the moment. And that is a reservation that a lot of people have for learning their lines too early. For me, getting off book allows me to be free as an actor, allows me to start playing in the rehearsal room, and allows me to start getting to the actual work of the acting. You know, whereas the script can often be a crutch and a block, an obstacle into getting to that point. So I like to get to the point of being off book as soon as I can. But how do you do that without going through it, the repetition, the boredom, and then it coming out as if you're just reciting an instruction manual or something? For me, I find a lot of time to play around and say it out loud in a number of different ways. I really try and not get in a pattern of saying the lines in a particular way. So whoever's in your house, if you're lucky enough to be living with somebody, they're your buddy, and you read the lines out loud with them, and you just play, you just be silly, and you can say, give me a different way to say these lines out loud. Even if it's absolutely ridiculous, you know, you can do the angry version, you can do the high-pitched version, you can do the low version. Keep your brain guessing so that it's not going to get in a way of, this is how we say this line when you get into the rehearsal room. You want to keep it fresh, you want to keep it open. And trust me, like, if we go the Anthony Hopkins route, who reads the script about 150 times, he's far from a mechanical, robotic actor. He's an Academy Award-winning actor, for heaven's sake. He keeps things fresh and he manages to read the script that many times. It is just a case of keeping it nimble, keeping it open, keeping flexible with the script. Don't get into a pattern with how you say it. The final tip, and the fifth one I'm going to share with you guys. I had a pretty profound experience lately with an acting coach called Jared Kellner. Shout out to Jared. You can find him on actorsapproach.com, and he's not sponsoring this channel in any way. It's just a genuine heartfelt recommendation. I spent an hour with him going through his memorization techniques, and it was life-changing for me. I managed to memorize a monologue within about 5 minutes, and I'd only read through it once, and all of a sudden it was in my memory. A lot of what the work that Jared does is pinpointing the lines to some kind of meaning, some kind of image that's going to be meaningful to you, or bizarre, or going to stick in your memory in some way. I'm not going to go into it myself because it is Jared's thing, but if you did want to check out some of his methods, some of his techniques, he actually has a #1 selling Amazon book, which I'll link in the description here. I don't know the name off the top of my head of the book. It's in the description, so check it out. But it talks through all of these techniques, and it's an incredibly effective way to learn these lines. Like, I promise you, 5 minutes and I managed to memorize a monologue. It was stupendous, amazing. So those are some ways that work for me in memorizing my lines. I hope you're able to take some value from that and add these into your own practice. It is one of the most frustrating things as an actor, having to learn lines. We want to be creative, we want to be actually doing the thing that we enjoy. For a lot of people, that's not learning lines, but it's something that we have to do. So finding ways that work for you is incredibly, incredibly important. And that's all I've got to share for now. If you got any value from this video, if you enjoyed it, please give the video that thumbs up. I really appreciate it. And hey, wouldn't do any harm to click that subscribe button. I'm uploading weekly videos on acting techniques, tips, and having a mindset for success. And yeah, that's all I've got to say for now. Be unstoppable, people. Thank you.